Hello Internet, Seth Skorkowski, and today we're taking a neon yellow tour of the dark future with the Cyberpunk Edgerunners Mission Kit. Published in 2024 by Tabletop Games and released as a box set. I've talked before about Cyberpunk 2020 that takes place in 2020, then the current edition Cyberpunk Red, which is set in 2045. Cyberpunk Edgerunners is set in the 2070s, the same backdrop as the Edgerunners TV show, as well as the 2077 video game. Technically it's set in 2076, directly between these two. Now, for the sake of full disclosure, I was given this box set and accompanying PDFs by Tabletop Games in exchange for a fair and honest review, so thanks, guys.
Whoa, they did not give that to you. They gave that to me, Jack the NPC. And I, for one, am thrilled to finally have a Cyberpunk game that takes place in the same world as all the other media. I mean, you got all these people who probably watched the TV show or played the video game and they were like, holy crap, I gotta get a load of this tabletop game, only to pick it up and discover that it didn't take place in the same world with the same level of technology as what they were expecting. Kinda like quick hacking. Man, I used the hell out of quick hacking when I played 2077.
Now, for those familiar with Cyberpunk Red, no, this is not a new addition. The game's mechanics are the same, though there are a few upgrades to gear and cybernetics to reflect those changes in technology and economics, and a few adjustments to some of the character roles and abilities to also reflect those different times. Also, the mission kit is self-contained. While it does use Cyberpunk Red's rules for skills and combat and all that, you don't require a copy of Cyberpunk Red in order to play it. Everything you need to play what's in the mission kit comes inside the mission kit. So, what's in the box? Okay, so opening this thing up, we get this little page telling us what's inside, the ubiquitous, what is a tabletop role-playing game. On the back there's some gaming keywords like non-player character, session, creator credits, just basic stuff. Mine came with 2 of these sheets, so I can only assume that Mike Pondsmith hates trees. Then we have this little paraphernalia baggie with a few Q Workshop dice, 4 6-siders and 2 10-sided dice, more on those in a bit. Then some plastic bases for the cardboard standees that we're going to find deeper inside here. After that is the Edgerunners Handbook. It's 40 pages with a handy rules reference cheat sheet on the back. This book tells us all about the world. Now, one thing I love is right on the opening page it lists the 3 core principles of cyberpunk. Style over substance, attitude is everything, and live on the edge. I love that it comes right out the gate and makes that abundantly clear. After that is the timeline of the world, how we got here, different types of cyberware and technology we'll find, some information about Night City and its districts and its gangs, as well as what life is like in the 2070s, and finally a few character profiles from the anime series. There is no rules in this book at all, it is all simply setting and world. Now for the game rules, that's book 2. Again, it's 40 pages, saddle stapled, and on the back is a reference cheat sheet for quick hacking. The book lays out all the game mechanics, skills, making skill rolls, combat and damage, netrunner rules, character life paths, then going over gear and cyberware and all that fun stuff that you need to play the game. It's all nice and tight and within that 40 pages. Next is book 3. This is an adventure titled The Jacket, which makes me think of that song from the Venture Brothers. Now this takes place in the aftermath of the Cyberpunk Edgerunners anime. Now we've played this adventure, but I'm going to review it separately in its own video, but we do get a 40-page starting adventure in the box set. Next is several fold-out maps, which we can use in the adventure or anything else. They're 17 by 11 inches in size, and the grids vary in size. Some maps have it where they're 1 inch wide, while others have smaller grids because they're supposed to be larger areas. It comes with 6 maps in total, then a map of Night City with the various districts labeled on it, and then a blank 1 inch grid map on the back for all those times your characters surprise you with something you don't already have a map for. Next is our pre-gen characters. We get 7 of these in total. Now, one thing I really dig with these is they're like these little fold-out booklets with all of our skills and abilities and details about starting equipment already inside. The life path portion is empty, so the players are going to all do that themselves once you give them these characters. Then a handy cheat sheet on the back for all the rules that a player might want just right there. I really dig these character sheets because they're extremely player-friendly. Then our cardboard standees for player characters and some NPCs and token shits for the other NPCs and bad guys that our player characters are going to be facing off against. Now, of course, the PDF has all this stuff save for the dice. You're going to have to provide your own dice for that. I do recommend that Game Masters get the PDF. If they're getting the box set, go ahead and get the PDF as well. Artel Saurian is in the Bits and Mortar program, where if you buy the box set at a participating store, they send you the PDF for free. But the PDF allows you to print out all the character sheets that you can now write on, as well as the weapon and equipment cards from the rulebook that you can now print out and pass out to your players. These things are just so ridiculously helpful to have.
Oh yeah, if mid-game one of the player characters picks up a gun off some dead gonk and they look at it and they're all like, hey, what's this? If a game master printed these up and cut them out beforehand, they could just hand one of these cards to the player that's got all the information just right there on it. We ain't got to slow down the game none to look it up and write everything down. And when we played the jacket, we used these cards to great effect.
As for the dice, well, they're dice. The highest value is this Edgerunner symbol rather than the 6 or 10 respectively. I'm not a fan of symbols instead of numbers on dice, but the whole industry seems to have outvoted me on that one, so, well, there it is. My problem with the dice is this stylized 4 is extremely difficult for me to read, especially with the background pattern of that circuitry. You know, sure, straight down, if it's oriented correctly, you know that this is a 4, but anyone who's ever rolled dice knows that they never land oriented perfectly like that. You know, they're sideways and upside down, and, you know, at a glance, that 4 can look like a 7. It's a nitpicky complaint, I know, but I just prefer dice that are very clear and easy to read. Now, the game rules are pretty straightforward. Again, these are Cyberpunk Red rules, which I've talked about in the Jumpstart Kit video, as well as the full Cyberpunk Red review video, so I'm not going to dive too deep into those a third time. But for anyone not already familiar with those rules, here's a short little gist of it. Each character has 10 stats, or 9 stats with the 10th one being luck. These go from 2 to 8. Of course, Cyberware might jack them up a little bit higher. Now from these we get a character's hit points and their death saves. We have skills, which can also be of varying levels to reflect how good we are at each of those skills. Each skill has a related stat, so when we're making a skill roll, we simply add our skill level plus the value of our stat plus any modifiers, roll a d10 and total that up, and we have to beat a target number of difficulty. For example, with the Fixer Connect, if I wanted to try my bribery, I would use my cool stat, which is 8. My bribery skill rank is 6 because that's one of my strong suits, and that gives me a base of 14. After that, I'll roll a d10 and total it up. If I roll a 10, the dice explodes, so you roll a d10 again and just total all that up together. If you roll a 1, the die implodes, which means you add that 1 to your total, then you roll the d10 a second time and subtract that second value from that total. The rules give us difficulty values for making a check, 13 being a mundane everyday task, difficult being a 15, all the way up to legendary difficulty at 29.
Now, one thing we want to make sure is absolutely crystal clear here, because we got it wrong when we did our review of Cyberpunk Red and people jumped down our throats like we made the single greatest mistake in the history of tabletop gaming, is that you have to roll above the difficulty value. So let's say your DV is 13, you got to get a 14 or more if you want to succeed. If you get a 13, you still don't succeed that one, which is different than just about every other tabletop role-playing game does it, but there you go.
In the event of an opposed roll, such as stealthing past another character's perception, both parties make their appropriate skill test and the person with the highest value wins. Combat is pretty deadly. Combat rounds are 3 seconds and allow for 1 move action and 1 other action during your combat turn, which that second one can be an attack or a second move action or just simply using a skill. The difficulty for ranged weapons really just depends on what weapon it is and how far you are from your target. Such as at 13 to 25 yards, a pistol has a difficulty of 20, while a semi-auto shot from an SMG, you only need a 15. Weapons using automatic fire use a different table, so that SMG at 13 to 25 yards now needs to beat a 20 in order to hit a target when it's set on rock and roll mode. On a successful hit, you roll damage, you subtract the stopping power or SP value from your target's armor, and then from that, any damage it gets through is subtracted from your hit points. Then your armor's total SP value is reduced by 1 because it's now less effective because it's been penetrated. Damage dice in Cyberpunk are all rolled with D6. And when you roll those, if 2 or more of those dice come up with a 6 side facing up, then a critical hit has occurred, which inflicts an automatic 5 points of damage directly to their hit points. It goes right through their armor. Plus, we get to roll on this critical hit table for additional effects, such as a torn muscle inflicts a -2 to your melee attacks, or a crushed windpipe and you can no longer speak. Now, this is a shorter list than you find in Cyberpunk Red, where you roll 2d6 for critical injury effects and you have more things like severed limbs, but this is a little bit lighter than Red, but it's good enough for QuickStart rules. Once a character's hit points are reduced to half, they're considered seriously wounded and suffer a -2 to all skill checks. At 0 hit points, a character suffers a -4 to checks and a -6 to their movement, minimum of 1. And then every round before their turn, before they get to go, they have to roll a d10 against their death save. If they make the roll, they can act like normal. If they fail, they die. And every round, the death save gets more difficult by 1 until either the character dies or they're stabilized. Being that these are just the Cyberpunk Red mechanics, I still have my same criticism of them that I do of Cyberpunk Red. Shotgun range of being a 6 meter by 6 meter cube is just silly to me. I dislike the lack of any sort of partial cover rules, or it might be more difficult to hit a target that's like standing behind a 1 meter high wall. It's just, the same as if they were out in the open, or a target that goes prone, that should also be harder to hit versus if they're just standing out there in the open like an idiot. But these are the same rules that we had in Cyberpunk Red.
Yeah, this is all pretty standard Cyberpunk rules mechanics so far. So when are we going to get to the new stuff? Other than being yellow and in a box, what separates Cyberpunk Edgerunners from Cyberpunk Red?
Oh, I am glad you asked. So now that we've covered all the basics, let's dive into the fun stuff. First is cyber. Between the advances in technology and therapy and the fact that most people get fitted with one as children and have gotten used to them over the course of their lifetime, every character that wants one can start off with a neuroport at 0 cost. No cost for money or humanity. You just get this thing if you want it. Neuroports come with a neural link that comes with 5 slot options that you can fill up with whatever you want, though you are going to have to pay for those. It also comes with built-in holophone, biomonitor, virtuality, heads-up display, 2 shard slots for any chipware or data shards, and interface plugs with a pull-out cord, usually located in the wrist. Now, if for whatever reason you don't want to start your character off with one of these and you want to get this later once the game starts, it's going to cost you €1,000 and 2d6 humanity. But otherwise, all characters just start off with one of these for totally free. I love it. Now, among the new cyberware is David's experimental Sandevestian from the show. And I think a lot of people watched that Netflix series, then picked up Cyberpunk Red hoping that they would find it in there and discovered that Sandevestians were nowhere near as amazing as it depicted in the anime, so now we have it. Firearms have a huge change as well. Previously we had single fire and auto fire, and a smart gun would give you a plus to hit, and that was about it. Edgerunner has those and has added a few new ones to it. First is power weapons. In addition to causing more damage on a critical hit, what makes these unique is power weapons can be ricocheted off solid surfaces to hit targets that are hidden behind cover. It's cool, and we had a ton of fun when we played it. Personally, I would like a little bit more with this, such as say that the cover being used as the ricochet surface sets with the maximum damage that ricochet shot could inflict, such as a thin steel is 25 hit points of protection. Therefore, if you bounced a shot off of it, that bounce shot can't do more than 25 damage. Or meanwhile, bouncing a shot off of a thin wooden door, that should cap at 5. The idea being that anything more than that just went through the door or whatever the shot was being bounced off of. So I feel that power weapon rules still need a little bit of work, but they really added a cool layer to combat as we can now, bounce shots off around corners. Next is smart weapons. Now these are nothing new in and of themselves. We plug a smart gun in, we get a +1 to hit. But the improvement is smart ammunition. In addition to ignoring any penalties for darkness, smoke, or visual obscurement, if you miss your shot by less than 5, smart bullets can bend their trajectory, allowing a second roll to hit. All the same minuses are going to carry over if you had any minuses on the shot, and instead of using your stat plus your skill level and all that like normal, the shooter just simply rolls a d10 and adds a flat 14, which is actually quite a bit here. Now, if that second roll hits, then you roll your damage as normal.
Smart ammo is straight up awesome. We love this stuff. I mean, it allows you to bin bullets like in that movie Wanted. Now, the downside to it is this stuff is pretty freaking expensive. Like 5 eddies a shot expensive. So you don't want to be spraying it around willy-nilly, but it is great.
Finally, we have tech weapons, essentially we're turning our gun, our pistol or rifle, into a rail gun. Now, first we have to lose our move action in order to charge a shot, which we then have to take that shot in the next minute before it loses its charge, but a minute is 20 combat rounds, so I got plenty of time here. And then we're reduced to a 1 rate of fire with that shot. But then we can fire straight through thin cover with no penalties at all, and it halves the target's armor. This is devastating and awesome. I freaking love tech weapons. Now, with these 3 new types of weapons, smart power and tech weapons, each of those we can only have 1 type of mod per weapon. So we can't be a smart power or a power tech, but I really do dig these different mods that we have now. To top that off, Edgerunners did come with one thing that I had criticized Cyberpunk Red for not doing, and that's that the sample weapons that they gave us have names now. So instead of boring and generic terms like medium or heavy pistol, we have the Constitution Arms Unity, or the Militech Lexington, or the Tektronica Bura. It is so simple, but the fact that the weapons have brand names again is great. I am so thrilled to see the names back on these things. The next big change to Netrunners, and one of my favorite things that I would do when I played 2077 video game, was quick hacking an enemy's cyberware, turning off their cyber optics or impairing their ability to move by freezing up a limb, or even causing their neuralware to catch fire. And Cyberpunk Edgerunners gives us that.
Netrunners during combat are freaking terrifying because they can use your own cyberware against you, and it don't matter how much armor you got on your person if that computer inside your skull just explodes.
Now, outside of the new quick hacking rules, the Edgerunners Mission Kit doesn't give us any of the larger hacking and net running rules that we would find in Cyberpunk Red. They're not necessary for the Cyberpunk Edgerunner adventures that are out there so far, but anyone that's wanting the full netrunner hacking capabilities are still going to need to pick up a copy of Cyberpunk Red core book in order to use those. Overall, I really like Cyberpunk Edgerunners. So far, we've played the adventure The Jacket from the Mission Kit and the downloadable adventure Karaoke Night, which I'll review those 2 adventures separately. My biggest criticism of it, outside the regular cyberpunk mechanics that I'm not fond of, is the art. The art is simply image stills from the Edgerunners anime show. I mean, I enjoyed that show a lot, but I've seen it already. And I've had this complaint for years with different RPGs that are based off of movies or shows where instead of new art, we simply get still frames from that same movie or show. I mean, I know those stories already. That's why I'm here playing the game, so I want new art that inspires me to play and create new stories and adventures. So I always feel a little bit cheated when I find stills from whatever movie or show that the game is based on, but once again, maybe that's just me. So, is the Cyberpunk Edgerunners Mission Kit worth it? I think so. I personally prefer Edgerunners to Cyberpunk Red. It managed to scratch that Cyberpunk itch and got me excited to play it in a way that's both fresh and familiar. You can find the Edgerunner Mission Kit on the Artelsorian website, as well as PDF copies on DriveThruRPG or wherever role-playing games are sold. If you're looking to play a cyberpunk game that emulates the popular video game and the anime series, I suggest checking it out.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see some more of our stuff, such as game reviews or RPG war stories like the Scott Brown incident, just hit that subscribe button. Till next time, Choombas, you have a great day. Now that I have been officially canonized as an NPC real estate agent that was operating during the 2040s at the time of Red, that means I was probably still kicking it in the 2050s when they cleaned all the hot zone out and started building the new Corpo zone up from the ground up. That had to have been an amazing time for people in my line of work, the real estate wars of the 2050s. So I gotta know how I fared during all that stuff, right? Did I come out on top, or did I end up in a body bank of spare parts? Hopefully that coming setting book for the 2070s that a little bird told us was coming is going to be able to answer those questions. Yeah, you heard me.